Hi everybody, welcome back to the channel. I'm your host Stanley Morgan. Today we're going to do another demolition derby car. I don't know if you caught my last video, but I made this one. If you'd like to watch that video, it's easy to find. Just go to my channel and look for how to build a demolition derby car 1/64 scale. Today we're going to take this 65 Lincoln Continental and give our Chevrolet Chevelle a friend. And we'll turn this one into a demolition derby car as well. I already drilled the post out. So our first step will be to take it apart. Move our windows interior aside. We're going to do some prep work on this with the Dremel tool. And we're going to do some cutting on this with the Dremel tool. So get your eye protection, ear protection. And gloves wouldn't be a bad idea as well. Let's get started. Alright, we'll be learning as we go because the only one I've ever made was the Chevy Chevelle. On the Chevy Chevelle we had to make 3 cuts to get the back end to go up in the air where we wanted it. The more I look at this, I think we're just going to need 2 cuts. They're almost marked out for us already on the graphics where you see this slanted line. I'm going to make a slice on both sides. And then attempt to raise the back end up, and that'll give us the damage we want in the back. Not only to show you that I'm on Instagram at the same name, but this is also the face shield that I wear to protect me from getting hit from broken Dremel tool blades. It's easy to cut too much, so I like to finish my cuts with this little file. That way we don't accidentally cut the whole back end off. Alright. We got the back end pointed up. So far, so good. Next, I'm going to take the Dremel tool and cut out the grille and cut off the tail lights and maybe get some room behind the bumper so we can bend it in closer to the wheels like it has some front end damage. Okay, the grill is gone. Do the same thing to the other side with the razor knife. Alright, we don't need those taillights anymore. Alright, I want to take the front wheels off so we can get rid of some of this material behind the bumper so we can manipulate the bumper to be bent. As you can see, there's 3 prongs. If you bend up the one prong that's by itself in a vertical position, I don't know if you can see that or not, but I bent the one little holding pin up in the air, and then the wheels come right out. We'll just push that little holding pin back down if we use these wheels and put some glue there. We might end up changing the wheels. We'll see as we go along. Alright, after you excavate all the material out of the way, your front bumper should look something like that. We should be able to heat it up later and manipulate it to look damaged. I think that's all we're going to do to the chassis for now. We will eventually have to bend it back here to fit the body curves. I lucked out and found another NASCAR interior with one seat, a little cage piece. We'll probably see how this fits. It's good to save any extra parts. After some cutting, sanding, I think I got the interior to fit in here pretty good. And we'll have a one-seat interior like a Demolition Derby car should have. We'll let this dry before we do any more work to it. The next step on our body will be to drill 2 holes in the hood. There's 2 lines here. I'm going to use those as a guide. I'll put a hole on one side on the outside and a hole on this side on the outside of the line. And then we'll have some pipes coming out of the hood. This is about a 1/8 of an inch drill bit. I'm not going to take the drill bit all the way through. I'm just going to go through till I feel it dimple the other side, which you can feel with your finger, so go slowly. Once you start to feel it dimple on the other side, then you can finish the hole with the file. That's the way I like to do it. That way it doesn't get too large. You can see the 2 dimples. I stopped just shy of going through the metal. That way I didn't drill a hole through my finger, and I didn't make the holes too big. Now I'll just take my file and finish them out. For that I got this round pointy file. You just work it right through there. It'll go right through once you have a nice dimple there. Take your time. You don't want the holes to get too big. I'll start them from the bottom and then go back to the top. Alright, I guess I should show you what we're going to use for pipes next. What I like to use for pipes is something that almost everyone has in their house, and that's a straw off of a can of WD-40. I found somebody on eBay that sells those straws. I bought about 100 of them. So you don't have to steal the one off your WD-40. You can go online and find them and buy them by bulk if you want to use them. I use these for axles on wheel swaps. I use them for suspension parts. And I'm going to use it today for pipes on our exhaust for this Lincoln. Once you rough up the surface, you should be able to paint it. Okay, just like I did on the hood, I drilled the hood from the back side, but the doors I really wasn't able to get in there and hold my bit flush, so I drilled them on the outside. And we're going to insert some chain. I have some small chain. Just same chain I used on the other car. We'll put some chain through those holes and make the doors look like they're chained shut. And while I was doing this, I also noticed this kind of looks like it could have been shot or something. This would be a good way to put blast holes on a vehicle, just like we did on the hood, except drill on the body and then finish it off with something pointy like this, a little file, and you could put bullet holes in a vehicle this way if you wanted to. Another little tip for you there. But we're going to insert chain around there. I'm not worried about the divots. When we put paper over the body for the dents, it's going to cover these big holes. You'll just have 2 small holes for the chain going through the paper. So let's move on to the next step and drill the other side. Working well so far. My accuracy was a little bit better on the driver's side, but I tested it to make sure the chain goes through all the holes. Still undecided if we're going to make the hood chain shut yet or not. I think I just came up with an idea while we was talking. I think we will. Maybe we'll run the chain around the inside. Because the Lincoln, the hood would open from this end. I'm going to try to drill 2 more holes in the hood, and we'll have chain up here going over the dash panel area. For accuracy, I decided to drill the holes on top. I'll finish them off with the file, and then we'll be able to run the chains around there. I could have drilled from the bottom, but it was really hard to determine where you're going to come out at. I think I was more accurate going this way. Again, I'm not too worried about the divots. We're going to cover the body with paper, so that'll cover the holes. I went ahead and put another drill mark on the bottom, and to go through the trunk, I'll take the punch like you've seen me do the other holes, and I'll poke through there, and we'll have that one ready for chains as well. As I've been looking it over, I think I want to cut some more stuff off the chassis in the back, so we can manipulate this back bumper a little bit as well. I think I found the wheels that we're going to use. I'm going to get rid of the factory ones. It's not going to sit this high. I just got it sit here to get an idea, but looking pretty tough. We'll move on to some chassis work. I've come to the conclusion that we don't need this back post. It's actually in the way for what I'm trying to do, so I'm going to cut that out next. Using the Dremel tool to cut it just shy of going all the way through worked good. It's flexible enough, and it fits in the body of the car fine now. Fits in there really well. In fact, I'm able to manipulate it where one side's higher than the other, which will look good. Alright, I think the chassis is ready to have the wheels put on. Next, I want to remove this little bump in the front where the old axle attached. Well, it was risky. I almost cut all the way through there, but when we put the other axle in, it should be adjusted to where the front end's a little higher off the ground now. I'm going to attempt to put the front wheels on without an axle piece for some reason. I don't know why I'm going this route, but I like to try different things. So I'm going to try something different today. I'm going to take the original axle and try to find the middle here best I can and cut it right in the middle. Alright, I took the factory half axle from the original wheel. I'm just going to glue it on here with some super glue and baking soda. Glue one on each side, and we'll have our front wheels. Alright, the first wheel went on good, it rolls fine. Do the same over here. Some glue on there. Put it into place. Make sure they look square. Then apply some baking soda over the glue. Help it dry faster. And we can keep building that up with baking soda and glue, and it'll be as strong as the plastic, probably stronger. I like to wait a couple minutes before I dust it off, just to make sure everything's nice and secure. I still got time to adjust the wheel a little bit if I need to. They look pretty good to me. What I'm going to do next is take the Dremel tool and attempt to cut a groove across the bottom just deep enough for our axle to sit. I've decided to do the back axle just like we did the front axle, except we're going to attach it on the underside instead. The same way, just on the bottom. I'm going to cut the axle in half so it'll fit almost like the original wheels. Alright, I got the grooves cut in there. Now I'm going to apply glue to one side only. Alright, the glue's holding it. While the glue's holding it, I'm going to put some baking soda on there to make sure it gets a little extra bond. And I'm just going to let it sit here and dry for a few minutes before I do anything else. Alright, that wheel's dry, rolls good. Just do the same thing that we did on this side on the other side. And then we'll have our 4 wheels. Just like before, a little bit of glue. Try not to get any on the outside of the frame rail, or you'll seize your rim to the vehicle and you don't want that. You try to view them the best you can to make sure it's square before you add the baking soda. This is the hardest part, getting them all the same. Be a lot easier probably using an axle, but we're doing something different today. Now I'll let this sit for a few minutes and then we'll test it out. Looks like our back wheels are a success. They both are spinning freely. I'll probably apply a little bit more super glue on there after this cures a little longer and do a second coat. It's always good to have a couple coats. And then if you're worried about it coming back off after that, I like to put some JB Weld. And it most certainly should probably have some JB Weld since it doesn't have an axle. But this is going to hold it together for us to finish the car. And then I'll put some JB Weld on, probably one of the last things. Here's our rolling chassis. Rolls fine. All 4 wheels are touching the ground like it should. I have to say it's close to perfect. Here's one more sneak peek. It's starting to come along nicely. As I've been test fitting the vehicle, I've decided to just go ahead and break this tail section off. And we'll just attach that by itself onto the car. It was just putting too much, just giving me too much trouble. This way it'd be much easier. I can manipulate it how I want to sit in there. We already got rid of all the tail light section. We'll probably squeeze it together and put a chain around here. And that'll just make the whole thing a lot simpler now that that's been removed. Should have just did that from the get-go, but I took a razor knife and I cut the two pipes that are going to come out of the hood. I beveled them to like a 45-degree angle on top. Give it a more unique look, and it won't be exactly like the last one we did. It may be hard to see, but I took a razor knife and whittled out some more material so these bumpers will bend easier when I go to heat them up. Now we want to move the front bumpers in a little bit. I got to remove some material on both sides on the body with the Dremel tool. I need to charge my battery on the Dremel tool, so I'll finish this little tiny piece off with the file. Shouldn't be no issue. Then I'll charge up the machine and cut the other side, and then I think we'll be ready to do paper. Here's what it looks like now that I've removed some material. It gives us a space to move that bumper back. I'm just estimating it. We don't have a whole lot of room till we hit the tire, but my estimation is there. Since I'm waiting for the Dremel tool to charge, I'm going to go ahead and paint the chassis with this chestnut color and make it look rusty like the interior. I took the Dremel tool and cut in a little deeper on the passenger side and did the same here on the left side with the Dremel. Nubbed a little bit off of this corner just to make it look different. Next, I'm going to drill a hole right in the center of the hood that I already started, big enough to where you could see the air cleaner on the engine. And then we'll be ready for paper. I can't think of anything else I need to do. So I'll drill that last hole and then we'll get on to the paper. I had to take a file and finish it out, but I've got all the holes in the body that I want to do. I'll find some kind of air cleaner or something to put there. And now we're ready to move on. After scrounging around in some parts, I found a piece out of a Plymouth GTX shaker hood for our hood scoop. So we'll have a hood scoop on here and our two pipes coming up. Should look pretty cool. Next, you want to get some watered down wood glue, stiff brush, some tissue paper or toilet tissue. What we're using here is just like industrial toilet paper you would see in a business. I've cut some pieces, one for the trunk, one for the hood, one for each side. Want to apply your glue concoction. First, get the area wet. Take your brush and manipulate the paper. We want to look like the hood is a little buckled from being rammed into something, rammed into another car. As long as you got a few wrinkles there, you can come back later with a needle or something and pull those up and stuff some paper on underneath them to get some more depth and dimension. Kind of hard to get it now, but as long as you have something to work with, we have a few wrinkles there, I think we can work with that. We'll do this side next. Take your time working with the paper. It's got plenty of time because it's going to take a while to dry. So take your time and try to imagine how it would look if it was damaged. Wrap the paper up underneath the wheel wells. As you're wrapping it under there, a little extra paper wrapped around the wheel wells and around door areas and stuff will help it hold on as well. Okay, we'll move on to the other side. Alright, I think I'm happy with the way it's looking so far. Do the trunk lid last. This is the only hard part of the project for me because now I have to sit and wait for this to dry. As soon as it's dry, we'll paint it, put it together, and we'll have the Lincoln Continental Demolition Derby car of my dreams. Alright, that's it. Alright, I took a needle and I pried up the paper on both sides of the hood where those ruffles are. And then I'm just going to stuff a small amount of paper in each side so it stays to the form that we want it. And then I'll take the brush and put a little bit more glue so this don't come back out. And then we'll take some flat black paint and paint that area flat black to indicate there's a hole there. Before I paint anything else, I think it would be a good idea to take my file and scratch some paint off where I'm going to mount the siren, because I don't want to glue the siren to the paint and just count on it to stick. I think if I rough this surface up real good and put the siren on now, we have a better chance of it staying on and not falling off in the future. And it's going to complicate things a little bit by having to paint around the siren, but I'd rather paint around it than it fall off later. Our next step will be to paint the doors and the roof a gloss white. After putting 4 coats of white paint on, we're ready to move to our gloss black paint. The paint is dry. I found a NASCAR windshield and I glued that in there. I attached our seats and interior to the rolling chassis, which I think looks really cool. Went with the rust fake patina. Still got to put something on the car, number, maybe a star. I'm almost ready to put the body and chassis together, but I still got to put the chains on, our pipes for the hood, and the little hood scoop. This is the last chain to put on. It's very tedious. This is why I'm only filming the last one. I have to use a needle to feed the chain through the hole. Once I get it through the hole, then I pull it all the way through, trim it off on the other side, and glue it. It's finally put together. My building skills are probably 100 times better than my hand painting skills, but I attempted to put a star on each door, and we'll call this one number 5. To the other side. Only thing left to do is take our Krylon paint pen and make it look like it has some bare metal on some of these creases. I'm going to go ahead and do that, and we'll put it into a better light. Demolition Derby police car would look like. Here's a pretty good example. Rolls great. Sorry I didn't show every detail. But some of those things were so tedious, it would take forever to film and be so boring. There's probably a few little things that need some touch up, but overall I think I showed you how to do it. You can make your own. Send me some pictures, I'll put them on Instagram. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and I hope you subscribe. Talk to you soon.